Morning everybody. So yesterday you probably saw in my story that I made a comment about follow-on milk. So follow-on milk is what is advertised to use for babies if you're using formula from 6 months. So I've been doing some research into this. Any information I give across is all research and evidence based, it's not kind of hearsay, although I did hear rumours about this follow-on milk, so decided to look a little bit further into it. I have looked at a couple of brands in this. So, sorry, excuse Elvis coming in the shop. So here we go. Okay, so in the UK law prohibits babies' formula milk being advertised before the age of 6 months. This is illegal. So, imagine you are a milk company. How are you going to market to your clients? Your clients are mums of babies. You want to target those babies from birth. So, what they've done is they have introduced follow-on milk. Follow-on milk is not illegal to advertise, provided it is made very, very clear that it's for use from 6 months onwards. Now, obviously, there has to be a point of difference between those two milks. Otherwise, a follow-on milk could be used from birth. So what do? So from an advertising point of view, the point of difference that me or you see when we see it on the shelf or we see the number 2 in an advert is that it has different ingredients in it that baby needs from 6 months. So, for example, the one I'm looking at here, which I'm not going to state which brand it is, but the one here states that it has extra vitamin D to help provide immune support. So, what marketing? So, let's talk about evidence. Let's talk about what actually is in the milk. So this is giving across is that your baby needs extra immune support or extra vitamin D from 6 months. A lot of parents don't know any different. They'll naturally see 6 months baby needs this. It's marked. So let's look at how to read an ingredients list. So for those of you who don't know, I'm just using a can of chicken noodle soup as an example. So, look at the ingredients on the back. The first ingredient listed is water. The last ingredient listed is beta-carotene. The first ingredient that's listed will always have the highest content. So in this chicken noodle soup, it's the main ingredient is water. After that comes noodles, which is 10%, wheat, semolina, egg white. Also quite useful to learn is anything that's highlighted in bold is a potential allergen or something that people might be sensitive to. So that's quite useful to know on the back of packet. So if you can see here it says sweet corn 2%. It's not a lot out of a can. It's going to mean like the second to last ingredient here is herb. So if you think sweet corn's 2%, herb is going to be absolutely next to nothing. So that's how to read an ingredients list. So now let's look at what I did when it came to ingredients in milk. So this is the breakdown that I did of milk. So here we have the first milk. So main ingredient here is demineralised water. Second ingredient, skimmed milk. Now I've actually underlined the ones that are allergens. Contains lactose, vegetable oil, a derivative of that is soy. Soy is quite an allergen, so it contains soy in there. Often people say, dairy intolerance. Soy is another big one to look into. It's got quite a lot of oils in there. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that. Whey proteins, fish oils. So again, it's got lots of bits and pieces in there. So I looked at the actual breakdown of those vitamins, how much is in there. That's the ingredient breakdown of number 1. And then I went on to look at the smaller ingredients listed. So we've got vitamins, B6, vitamin A, B12, D3, B6, etc., etc. So lots and lots in there. And then I looked at number 2. So let me tell you something. all these ingredients, you can see my arrows basically saying yes, 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 yes in there. Main ingredient, demineralised water, skimmed milk, lactose. Fourth ingredient on the list, maltodextrin. It's not in number 1, it's in number 2. So let's look at what that is in a minute. So all these ingredients are the same, doesn't contain sodium chloride. Contains all exactly the same, exactly the same, exactly the same. I then looked at the breakdown of 1s to 2s. Same, slightly more of vitamin A, less B12, slightly more D3, etc, etc. So let's look at the maltodextrin, and then I'm going to come back to exactly the differences between the vitamins. So all I'll say is any information I give over is, like I've just said, research based. There is evidence to back it up. I'm not going to specify any particular brands in it, so it's going to be quite broad, reflex, things like that. I'm not a doctor, speak to a doctor. My personal choice, I am not going to be using follow-on milk for my babies. I'm going to carry on number one purely because of that maltodextrose. So what I found is maltodextrin is a product that many food manufacturers add into their foods to improve taste, improve thickness, consistency, but also to improve shelf life. It's an additive, basically. Not necessarily already has issues with her reflux, and I don't want to antagonise it any further. Other side effects can be skin rashes, it can affect asthma. Obviously, like I said, we're giving a very, very small amount, so it shouldn't really affect it. But why is this kind of stuff being put in baby milk? Is it just to pack it out, or is it a marketing thing? Is it something that's giving that point of difference so that they're then allowed to advertise it as a different product? Really harmful as such, but it is an additive. It has no nutritional value. It actually has quite a high GI score, so it can cause spikes in blood sugars. Obviously, we give, but that's just something that slightly concerns me. So now let's look at vitamin content. I've researched into it quite a bit now. Side effects of maltodextrose can be increased bacteria in the gut. So if you do have a baby that does have sensitive tummy, suffers from colic, suffers from what that actually breaks down to. So excuse my really scrappy writing here. So let's look at the differences. B12, it's got 0.01 less in number 2. D3, it's got 0.2 more. Vitamin K, it's got slightly more vitamin K. Number 2, it's got slightly more vitamin E. Number 2 has more sodium also known as salt. Iron, it's got double the iron in it. So let's look at vitamin K, it's got slightly more vitamin K. Number 2, it's got slightly more vitamin E. Number 2 has more sodium also known as salt. Iron, it's got double the iron in it. So let's look. Right, so bear in mind, if you look at vitamins, yes, there is some more vitamins in number 2, but it's so minimal. I'm going to break it down how minimal it is. Babies after 6 months are generally weaning, so they're getting some nutritional value and vitamins from food anyway. So if I first look at B12, it's got 0.01 less in B12, so let's ignore that because that's less. D3, vitamin D3, that's got 0.2 more in it. So D3, you're going to get that from fish and cheese. To get 0.2 more, you literally need to eat a spoonful of fish. That's it. The next thing that is more is vitamin K. Vitamin K is found in spinach and kale. You need to make up for that deficit in vitamin K, you need to eat 15 grams of spinach in a day. Vitamin E, so minimal again, is 0.1. It's missing. You need to eat 1 floret of broccoli a day. That's your baby. 1 floret of broccoli. It's got more salt content in number 2. I'm not too keen on that. And iron, it's got 0.5 milligrams more. You're going to get that from your spinach and you're also going to get that from baked potatoes. So my kind of conclusion, what I will be doing, I will be carrying on with number 1, and I will be making sure that my babies eat their vegetables and eat their baked potatoes and a little bit of fish.